Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. Teachers of Reddit. What is the strangest thing a child has brought in for show and tell? In the 4th grade I brought in my grandfather. Yup. My grandpa. He told jokes and did these really cool whistling tricks. Looking back on it, that was probably strange. I love this so much. Like a kid bringing a pet to class. This is my grandpa. He is old. Kid raises hands. Does he do tricks? Yes, he does tricks. Grandpa whistle. Grandpa whistles, children applaud. It's strange but it's really cute and your grandpa probably loved that you did it. Toss up between the dead hummingbird or the cobra in a jar. And no, it wasn't the same kid. Was it the same jar? Jar pulling? One of my students this year, 2nd grade, brought in a cassette tape. Not to play. Just to show. Nobody knew what it was. I had to explain it. I worked at a tech camp last summer and I always enjoyed asking my kids if they knew what the save icon was. Every single week only 1 or 2 in my class of 8 would know. You should pull out floppy and tell them you 3D printed save icon. My brother brought in a turkey leg once. Like the claw of a dead turkey. The teacher confiscated it because she was creeped out by it and my dad had to go in and get it. He was pulling the tendon to make the claw open and close a bit. That was apparently too much for the teacher. My father used to hunt. He would cut the skin of the claws off at the joint and pull hard to remove the tendons from the drumstick. My brother and I loved pulling the tendons to make the claws open and close. We would grab each other's clothes or hold things. One child forgot to bring something once, found this out later. So he blew his nose in a Kleenex, put it in his pocket, and showed us his boogers. His improvisational and planning skills will take him far in life. Calvin? Kid will have a breeze in job interviews. When I was in grade 6 I brought in a photo of my grandfather shaking hands with Winston Churchill. My grandfather was in politics, low level, and met him. I didn't think it was that cool but my dad promised me it would be worth bringing in. Nobody in my class cared at all. But my teacher called in other teachers to show them and they all asked me a million questions. No idea where the photo went. My grandmother saw a suffragist hit Winston Churchill with her umbrella. Knowing how blunt he tended to be, I get the feeling that might not be a terrifically rare thing. I taught outdoor education for a few years and one of the activities I would do with the younger groups was to have them find something in nature and use my stash of trail guides to learn something cool about the thing to tell the rest of the class. One kid found an eyeball. At first I thought he had gotten some mossy rock out of the creek. Until he started twirling it around by the optic nerve like some kind of horrifying nunchakus. Just an eyeball. What kind of eyeball? I always guessed it was an elk eye because it was too big to be a deer's. But can't confirm. I had my aunt for a teacher so I always brought in embarrassing pictures of her for show and tell. The 80s were bad to her but good to me. Especially when the principal sat in. This feels so backwards to what I would expect. The 80s were great. I brought my sister's tonsils to school in a plastic baggie. My teacher was grossed out. But at least it was allowed. There was a kid in my kindergarten class that did the full choreography to Bye Bye Bye. He was obsessed with NSYNC and after 3rd grade we weren't allowed to talk to him about the boy band because his counselor said so. He also hated me because I liked Backstreet Boys. I guess he could take no more. It ain't no lie. A child in a nearby classroom brought in an object and told his teacher that he had found a cute little whistle at home and put it into his mouth to demonstrate. The teacher recognized the object as an applicator for a feminine product used to control yeast infections. While the children went to a special class the new toy disappeared from the child's desk. The teacher did call the mother to let her know what had come to school. In high school, we had some sort of fundraising thing where we would donate money toward a specific staff member, and whoever had the most donations had to kiss a turkey around Thanksgiving. All the staff thought it was going to be a fake turkey, but a teacher that I knew really well who disliked another staff member came to me and asked me to bring in a turkey from my dad's farm. She planned to donate a pretty good chunk of change to switch the vote in her favor. It also just happens the whole fundraiser was her idea. Fast forward a few weeks. It's the vote counting day. Sure enough, the staff member she disliked got picked. It was interesting. The look on his face as I marched a turkey out of its cage and up onto a cafeteria table. Totally unplanned. Except between myself and the organizing teacher. Everyone was absolutely stunned at the live bird gobbling at them as it trotted around like it owned the place. And yes, he did actually kiss it. As did several other students. Surprisingly, it didn't try to peck the incoming human faces. It was a really chill bird. My elementary school art teacher would always bring a live turkey to class with her around Thanksgiving. It was pretty cool. And she was well known for doing it. In pre-K I brought a goat into show and tell. My family was rehabilitating it after finding him abandoned on a hunting trip. Everyone was psyched. Especially me. Until he jumped up on the table and started pissing everywhere. I mean all over. On the tiles and foam carpet squares. It was awesome. Me with the goat. Rex. I once brought my imaginary friend into school for show and tell. Oh god, why? Or I can just see little you / another posh Brit saying this is my friend Billy. Say hi. Billy. In the 3rd grade a guy in my class brought a jock cup, the kind to protect your nuts, which if you didn't know has holes to help breathing. Well, a girl raised her hand and asked how do you drink out of it. The teacher stood up and had him put it away without explaining it. I took my fox terrier to school for show and tell. Teacher was cool with it and I ended up keeping him at school with me for the whole day. Best day ever. Your username is asymmetrical. This is more of a show and stop telling. I did my student teaching in a 1st grade class. A police officer came in one day to talk to the kids. Just like a fun thing. He was showing the kids his tools and he holds up the handcuffs. And a little girl in the back shouts out, "My mommy has those on her nightstand. I keep mine in a drawer. WTF. That's 2 seconds longer it takes you to get dominated." Not show and tell but in preschool. We were allowed to bring movies from home to watch as a group in the morning and if your movie was the one picked out of the few brought in, you were the cool kid of the day basically. I decided to bring in this movie cause it had pretty girls with swords on the cover. Turns out, I brought some weird lesbian hentai that belonged to my dad. They gave it back to me to take home and told me not to bring it back again. Suo. Do you remember the title? Not a teacher but near my hometown an elementary schooler innocently brought his mom's crack pipe for show and tell. The mom was later arrested that day for drug possession. Psnews.com link. Why was the mother arrested? The kid was the one holding a crack pipe. The kid ratted out his supplier. Prosecutors always want to move up the chain. I brought a wild quail in a cardboard Mountain Dew box. Worst day of my life. I can't understand why no one has replied to this comment yet. What happened? Don't leave us hanging. Teacher was not amused. The quail spent the rest of the day trying to escape the box. Lots of loud chirping and flopping around. They tried to call my parents to get me and my quail. But nobody answered. I distinctly remember wishing the earth would just open up and swallow me. In 1st grade I brought in the skull of a dead animal that got hit by a train on the tracks behind our house. It still had a little bit of grey fur left attached and I told the class I hoped it was an alien and pointed out how it didn't look like a cat or raccoon. My teacher made me wash my hands. Pro tip from a kid that also loved skulls of dead animals. Dead animals I found. Not killed. Throw the sucker into an ant's hill and come back the next day. Will be pure white and shiny like a new skull. Well, a new skull without skin and shit. I brought in part of a horse skull from a field on my family's farm. I thought it was cool because you could use it as a mask. My teacher didn't think so and made me wash my hands too, and the thing was dead for at least 50 years at that point. When I was in 3rd grade this girl brought a human skull in. She said her grandpa got it from Nam or World War II. I don't really remember. It freaked everyone out but I remember thinking it was cool as shit. Alas. Did her grandpa know him? It's grandma. My son did a SA in preschool for his show and tell. politely explained that a-hole is a bad word and you shouldn't say it. In our defense, he was allowed to ask me what any word meant, so he would know which were bad words he shouldn't say and why. It never occurred to him that it would cause a stink. He honestly thought he was being helpful. Cause a stink. Hehehe. So his a-hole caused a stink? So, this is not flagged as serious, so I can share my story even though I wasn't teacher. But the child that brought something weird in for show. I was 13 and I had a pet antlion that I kept in a jar with sand. Every day when I went back from school I was collecting ants into empty matchbox, so I could feed the larva and watch the show. Antlion hunting ants is quite fun. And I had no PC or Netflix when I was 13. For those who are not familiar with antlion, it's underground larva of some kind of flying dragonfly-like insect that moves backwards in a funny jumpy way and digs a cone-shaped hole traps in sand or dust. When ants or other small insect falls into this hole, antlion throws sand at it with its claws. So the prey slides down towards the antlion's claws the faster they try to run. So one day in school, in biology, we had to write a paper about animal of our choice. So I chose antlion. I wrote everything I knew about him. Well, the next day in biology I got F. And our old bitter lady teacher laughed me off. That I made this animal up. That it does not exist. Only in fairy tales. The whole class laughed at me. Ant lions rocks. Edit. Picture URL didn't show the pic. Same things happened to me while in 3rd grade. I had to write a report on my favorite animal, so I wrote one about the blue-footed booby, Grigliali.com link. I had just seen a video about them on Captain Kangaroo and thought they were cool looking. My teacher, who didn't like kids very much, said I was making it up and was just trying to be dirty and gave me a 0 for the assignment. The next day I brought in the book from the encyclopedia which had a minute to prove her wrong. She groused and said that she would change the grade. But if I was expecting an apology from her, I was gravely mistaken. I'm not a teacher, but I worked in an after-school program. This 2nd grader comes in after show and tell day and hands me something, which I take without thinking about it. It's like a dried, speckled piece of pink paper. I ask, "What is this?" "My placenta." What the y'all just handed me your placenta? My super calm response though was, "Oh, cool. Why don't we put it in a bag and put it in your backpack for safekeeping?" Gross. Super gross. Hey lawyers of Reddit. Does the placenta belong the child or mom? I understand squatters' rights, but is that applicable here? You would really need to take possession of the placenta over a span of years in order to claim adverse placental possession. So, generally the mother. But you could make a case for a fetus if the fetus had ingested her fetal twin and had a valid instrument signing over property rights to the now living twin. All of my children, at one time or another, brought in our Great Dane. The teachers loved it, because the whole class could pet her at once. The Dane also appeared in many a math class, counting her spots, and for the letters B, for big, and E, obvious. Dobvious a free elf. Not a teacher, but in 2nd grade a kid showed everyone his prosthetic leg. He proceeded with taking it off and showing us what was underneath. I swear I am not lying. A principal friend of mine called me in stitches one day and said a small kid at his rural school had a big black dildo in his backpack. Luckily it was found by his teacher early in the morning before show and tell. This year, a grade 6 child brought a bird on a leash in a backpack to school. The VP found her running through the hallway after it, and the tiny leash around its neck. During recess one day, we couldn't figure out how she got the damn leash on the thing. I never realized how much I wanted a bird on a leash till now. Is that a sex thing? When I was in 1st grade, I forgot to pick something out for show and tell, so in the morning, I panicked. So just so I have something to bring, I asked my dad if he would be my show and tell. He was so excited and happy. He called out of work and went to the basement to grab some stuff. 10 minutes later, he come running up with a weird looking briefcase and told me to get ready for school. He was so excited. He drove me to school, went inside with me and asked when show and tell was. After finding out it wasn't until before lunch, he got a little disappointed. But he went to go get coffee. Time comes around for show and tell and he comes in right as it's my turn. I tell everyone that this is my dad. He raised me. And yeah. Then my dad told me to take a seat because he wanted to show everyone something. He opens the briefcase and to my surprise, he brought magic stuff. He put on a show for the whole class and finished up with some cool yo-yo tricks and gave my teacher a bouquet of roses. She ended up blushing and everyone teased her for liking my dad. The whole class was at awe and my classmates wanted him to be at their birthdays. It was great. My brother talked my mom into bringing a cow to school for him. We lived in the middle of nowhere. I was probably 4 and my brother was 6. While my brother was at school, my mom put the cow in the front seat of the car and me in the back seat. As we pulled up to school, the cow crapped all over the seat. Good times. How do you fit a cow in a car? Was it small? It was a calf. Not a teacher, but when I was in 1st or 2nd grade I brought my baby sister for show and tell. She had just been born and I was excited to be a big brother. We're 7 years apart. I think that's pretty weird. Just right in the backpack, eh? Haha. No, my mom came with me as apparently you can't bring your baby sister along on the bus ride. Go figure. Not a teacher, but had a boy bring in a bin with a sheep in it. Bin was green. Sheep was alive. Is no one else wanting to question why a non-teacher is having boys bring in show and tell? I have boys bring me sheep all the time. It's kind of my thing. A kid in my class used to bring Ultralord to show and tell every ducking time. His fat friend always brought his inhaler to show and tell. Remember the one time he brought a ducking hot dog bun? I had just had a medical circumcision at age 6, so I got up in front of the class and whipped out my dong to show the class my awesome stitches. Boy, I was a confident kid. What was the teacher's reaction? I can't remember at the time, but she told me over 10 years later she was sitting at the back of the class laughing it up. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.